Welcome. Thank you for joining me for the January edition of the Spotlight series, where our goal is to recognize, inspire, and share pedagogical insights from fellow instructors in the College of Biological Science at the University of Guelph. The Spotlight series is a monthly communications piece by the COESP, or the College of Biological Science Office of Educational Scholarship and Practice. My name is Jessie Nelson Duck, and it has been my pleasure to learn about and share the amazing things instructors are doing in their courses to support student learning. This month, we will turn our attention to lab technicians and instructors in part 2 of Taking Inspiration from Lab Instructors. In this edition, we will hear from some of the instructors about what they have changed to support remote learning during the pandemic and what they've learned from those experiences. For this spotlight, we're going to do things just a little bit differently. Up until now, you've been getting written articles based on interviews that I did. This time, we're going to hear from lab instructors and a short sort of video diary behind the scenes look at what they've been doing and how it looks from their point of view. First, we will hear from James Turgeon and Ian Scagnetti, two members of the lab technician team in the Human Anatomy Lab in the Department of Human Health and Nutritional Sciences.
I want to start off by saying thank you very much for this opportunity to kind of show what the Human Anatomy program in the Human Health and Nutritional Science Department has done to transition to an online environment and kind of where we are now with this technology. My name is James Turgeon. I'm a laboratory technician in the Human Anatomy Lab.
Hi, I'm Ian Scagnetti. I'm also a lab technician in the Human Anatomy program.
And we are part of a pretty large team that helps bring anatomy to multiple courses. So in first year, Guelph Humber, third year, anatomy in Guelph, as well as a fourth year course in Guelph and Guelph Humber in the winter semester. So we cover a couple courses, quite a few courses as a part of our general program. To start off, we actually, before the pandemic, had a fair amount of technology in our lab. We had really started focusing on the use of high-quality digital images to bring anatomy to students. From there, we really wanted to transition into a live environment, and that's going to be what we're talking about now. And to do that transition with the support of the College of Biological Sciences and Human Health and Nutritional Science Department, we are able to actually purchase some equipment, including Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, a 10 mini ISO Pro switcher, which allows for seamless transitions between multiple cameras, and eventually as well a Sony Alpha camera, which is what we're recording on right now. What's really interesting about, or what's nice about all this, is that we were able to then use these cameras to create a lab environment that we hoped was an interactive one that was interesting for the students. Typically in both our first and third year course, we would start off a lab presenting the information for the week, so about a 30-minute to an hour, depending on how much we got talking, showing the anatomy and the structures for that week before they went into a breakout room, walked through a package that actually had images from our lab, so cadaveric images integrated into this lab handout, which they were able to identify structures on their own and within a group, before coming back to the lab for a final discussion and question and answer period, where they would be able to discuss again with ourselves as well as TAs and images under the camera or through that lab package, and we're able to kind of hopefully create a good understanding of the content for that week. I'm going to actually pass it over to Ian, who's going to kind of illustrate exactly what happens in that lab, as well as kind of discussing beyond what we're looking at here. So everything on this side is kind of for the producer or the person who's working through the behind-the-scenes technology. Everything on that side is to help the presenter see what they're working on. So there's a lot of monitors, but it's a fairly simple system when push comes to shove.
Yeah, so traditionally, the Human Anatomy Lab experience for students will be an understanding-based approach learning to anatomy in a respectful environment. We, of course, are incredibly privileged such that members of our community choose to donate their bodies for the benefit of our students who are learning in sort of a hands-on cadaveric-based anatomy environment. And the elements that we strove to keep to that environment, even when we were teaching remotely, was this sort of discussion and interaction-based learning and really, really high-quality real anatomy to learn from. So I will step over to where we sort of do the live demonstrations, and James can show you how we sort of switch between camera views. And we didn't want to lose this really, really high quality identification of structures and relationships for students. And you can see that sort of as I'm manipulating this live, it gives us the opportunity to give students a really three-dimensional understanding of real anatomical specimens. And because we're doing this live, it can still provide students with that live interaction modality where at this time I'm watching a monitor to make sure that what I'm showing is appropriate, but also what that means is that I can see chat questions come up, I can see students' hands come up for when they want to ask questions over the mic, and it gives us that opportunity for interaction with one student, of course, to the benefit of all the students in that Zoom room at the time.
Perfect. So we've been teaching online and then back in lab for almost over a year now, so well over a year now. So we definitely found some positives by teaching in an online format. So I'm going to let Ian, if you want to speak about some of those positives.
Sure. So now having experience with the remote learning, we found that remote learning can be consistent. We can ensure that all the students are getting the same views and the same information, and we're addressing the same questions. We found that in the allotted time, as James was describing, when we're providing instruction, we can provide really quite a lot of different kinds of materials, including our cadaveric specimens and osteology and lab modules and high-quality digital images and research-specific case studies and so on that the students all are benefiting for, given this digital multimedia approach. We're also ensuring that every student is still getting that curriculum-driven, high-quality, understanding-based, and respect-based approach to their anatomy by leading by example and ensuring that they're getting the same quality teaching and interaction experience.
Yeah, I think the only thing I can add to that is the ability to have a camera that can zoom in on a very specific part and show details that sometimes would be difficult to do in lab. It's hard to get a big group of people at any point in time around a very small structure. So for example, so that as an example is one of the benefits of actually having some of this equipment to help present the same information to all our students. Okay. With that being said, with benefits, there was a lot of challenges as well that we faced. So again, Ian, if you want to start off with some of those challenges.
Sure. Now, in our traditional lab setting, we really, really prize that interaction with our students. It's a tremendously fun and moving experience just to be part of the anatomy lab and experience the gift of the donors and that peer group hands-on learning in anatomy, which of course cannot be delivered remotely, when students are coming in working together with their friends in a hands-on dissection-based learning environment being guided by the technicians. That's just an irreplaceable lab experience that can't be done remotely, so of course we look forward to getting back to that hands-on experience. And just so much less time because of the way we're limited in the way that the remote labs are delivered. The students aren't able to come in for their traditional 3-hour lab session where we have those long drawn-out discussions in person, which really, really help to supplement and reinforce their lecture and pre-lab materials. And also, we're unable to offer, traditionally we offer extra lab hours for all of the students up to an extra 5 lab hours a week, which means some students are in here for 8 hours a week just because it is such a tremendously fun and engaging experience, and we're unable to do that remotely.
Yeah, I agree again with all of that, Ian. And the one thing I do want to point out is one of the biggest benefits was that consistency in information that we were able to present students, but it also kind of reduced that self-exploration, the inability of a one-on-one with a student to go on to a tangent that is very interesting for that student. Wouldn't be interesting or wouldn't necessarily be interesting for a group of 60 or 40 students, so it would be a lot more difficult to kind of go beyond that course material because of resistance from the student body as a whole. So I think that's something that I know I personally missed in that online environment. So Beyond that, what we've learned is that we don't want to just forget all these lessons and just kind of throw this technology aside. This fall, we've already integrated this technology into our 4th year advanced anatomy class. So we have about 40 students who used a lot of this technology to complete projects, as well as they culminated in an outreach session to about 200 high school students. So not only local high schools, but a greater area as well, which they were able to present an online cadaveric-based human anatomy session, which was quite exciting to see them actually use all this technology and present the anatomy that they've been learning for the last 2 years. So it was very nice to see in that regard, as well as pre-lab preparation, which we're hoping to do this semester, and just continue to utilize the technology and hopefully reach a greater population eventually. So.
Yeah, with that being said, we'd just like to say thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share with what we've been doing in the Human Anatomy program and the ways in which we hope to carry it forward. This has been a valuable lesson.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Now, let's hear from Colin DeMille and Sherry Hanks, who are both longtime lab instructors from the Department of Integrative Biology, and who actually were lab instructors when I did my undergrad at Guelph as well.
All right, welcome to Zoo 3000, our last lab of the semester. Hi, my name's Colin. I'm a lab instructor in integrative biology, and I just completed my last lab for this semester from my home office, where I've been working for the past year and a half teaching this lab, histology, and other courses. It's been fun, but I'm looking forward to going back to the lab. Nonetheless, there are some things that I've been doing here in the home office in terms of lab teaching that I think we can do in class as we move back on campus. And a couple of those are, first, making videos ahead of labs beforehand. I think will make things a little more efficient. So we've all gotten better at making, well, at least editing videos and putting them together. And also, we have a few digital options. So let me show you. So first I have a digital camera here attached to the microscope. And we can see on the computer, the image is displayed. We can move the slide around just like a normal slide. This is a rabbit ovary, by the way. And then I can show slides from here. So this could be used in the lab as well as at home over Zoom. It works really well. Secondly, we're using a digital slide program called Objective Pathology, which is used by many histology classes have been using digital slides for a long time. It gives students access to high resolution images. Here we have a cerebellum. We can zoom in on it. And then students can look at photomicrographs in the comfort of their own home at any time without having to come into the lab. And you can see it gives a magnification in the bottom left corner, kind of a scale bar, and you can zoom in and out and look around on the slide. It does have the feel of looking at a slide on the microscope just normally. So while I've enjoyed teaching labs from my home office here, I'm really looking forward to going back to the lab this winter and teaching in person. But there are a few things that we've learned and some technologies that we've been using working from home that we can continue to employ and improve our labs overall. Thanks very much.
So both of the courses are typically very hands-on. One is a 4th year course and the other is a 2nd year course. They range in size from about 60 to 200 students. They both have a 3-hour lecture and a 3-hour lab a week. In the limnology course, which is the study of freshwater, we typically take the students on 4 field trips and they learn how to sample lakes and rivers and learn how to assess water quality. And then in the 2nd year course, the invertebrate course, we look at all of the animals without backbones, so everything from small single-celled organisms to larger sort of charismatic creatures like octopus and sea stars. And because both courses are very hands-on, our biggest question as we started to plan for last fall as well as this winter was, how on earth are we going to meet some of the learning objectives where we typically, do lots of things with the students, we take them out places. So at the beginning, we thought about what was important to us, and a bunch of things arose. And first of all, how to meet the course learning objectives. We wanted them to be fun. We wanted them to be engaging. We wanted to promote the love of learning. And most of all, we wanted the students away from the screen doing things. We know that that's good for their mental health, and with lots of Zoom fatigue going on, we really wanted them out there doing things. We wanted them to have relevant real life experiences and sort of not busy work. We wanted to include everything that they might need. And that was important to us too, especially in some of the lockdown situations we've been facing. We didn't want students to have to go out and buy, little bits and pieces of things that they might need or they might not have on hand. And safety was a big concern. One of the courses, the limnology course, we send the students out to water. And I typically take them out in the field, and I know how sometimes they behave around the water, so I was kind of worried on the weeks that we sent them out to do this on their own. They were given lists of safety instructions and had to watch safety videos and all sorts of fun things. We wanted options, so what if they didn't get a kit? We ran into some issues with international shipping. In one of the courses, we simply couldn't ship them because there was some food in them as well as some preserved organisms, so they didn't allow us to ship them. Or what if it wasn't safe for them to participate in going out to the streamer? What if they didn't have safe access or weren't able to, for whatever reason, to get outside? So we wanted things to be accessible in terms of cost, in terms of safety, some of the differing abilities and experiences that the students have had. We also considered mental health. It was a big concern as the pandemic continued, so it wasn't directly related to the kits. It certainly was a consideration throughout both semesters. So we had frequent check-ins with the students. And you can see on the bottom picture there, it says on a Riggs scale, how are you feeling today? And Riggs is my dog, and he makes frequent appearances through the semester. There were a couple weeks where we just got the sense that the students were overwhelmed with things. So typically we would have a quiz each week. And there were a couple weeks where we simply said, you know what, no quiz this week. Let's take care of ourselves. Snap a picture of yourself doing something that you enjoy doing, or let us know what you're doing, and we're going to count that instead of one of our quiz marks. And they always had choice in the activities that they were going to do, and often, we had 7 assignments and we counted the top 5 or whatever, just to give them a break as the semester went on. So I'm going to talk about each of the courses separately just to give you a sense of what we did in each one of them. So in the 4th year limnology class, we typically have about 60 students. It's a required course for our marine biology students. And as I mentioned, we take the students out typically on 4 field trips to local streams and rivers. We collect samples and we collect the bugs that live there, and we try and assess the water quality. In lab, we also conduct a toxicity test to examine the effects of some kind of chemical on aquatic organisms. And we've used various pharmaceuticals over the past years. We use things like acetaminophen, ibuprofen to see what the impacts are going to be. So you can see the challenge that we faced in offering this course remotely. We simply couldn't take the students out to sampling locations. We weren't going to see them face to face. And we thought, well, we could simply video the sampling techniques and supply the students with data for analysis. But what we really wanted them to do was get outside and do something. So we came up with 2 activities we thought they could do remotely that would promote some hands-on learning. The first was a toxicity test, and so we sent them various organisms and we sent them some salt solution. And then we thought, okay, now we've got that one covered. Let's have them participate in a citizen science project. So we participated in a citizen science project called the Leaf Pack Network. And that way they were able to sample the water and the organisms that live there and assess their own local habitats. Both of these activities have well-established sampling protocols, and the students are actively engaged in data collection and contributing to scientific databases. And here's what they had to say about that course. They loved the field kits. It was genius. They appreciated being getting out there and doing things. And because they got to keep everything, some of them were really excited about having, the thermometers left behind in some of the water chemistry test strips and things like that. So they seem to really, really enjoy doing it. And then because that was successful, we thought, well, that went pretty well, so let's do it again for another course, this time for the winter semester. This time it was for a second-year invertebrate morphology and evolution course. This course typically has between 150 and 200 students, again, a 3-hour lecture and a 3-hour lab a week, and it examines the diversity of the invertebrates, about 98% of all organisms on Earth. It's a course that many students are reluctant to take, but it is a required course for most of our majors. And after seeing and touching and manipulating the invertebrates in the lab, many of them really enjoy the course and they pursue related courses and continue with grad opportunities and or work-related fields. So we provided them with activity kits that allowed them to participate in various hands-on activities. So here's a picture of what was included in the kits. It contained the necessary equipment to do limited invertebrate field research. And again, it was important to us to consider safety, to consider accessibility, to provide everything that they needed so they wouldn't have to go out and get other things. We had 190 students and we had about 10 that didn't receive the kits. They were either international or they didn't buy the kits. The kits were about $40 to put together, and we cost shared that with the students. So the department paid $20 and the students paid $20 to get those kits. So some of our lessons learned: it takes twice as long to do anything, from sourcing to packing to buying to mailing to teaching. It all takes a long time. And cats drink water, they knock over cups, they're curious about everything. So everything had to be cat proof. I don't own a cat or haven't owned a cat for a long time, so I had sort of forgotten that they have this tendency. So when the students were doing the Daphnia, the cats had knocked them off, they drank the triops, and I got a couple panicked emails about, oh my gosh, my cat just ate my triops, are they going to be okay? And in fact, yes, they are. And students are amazing. Despite all of the challenges that they were facing through this pandemic, they were so incredibly resilient, patient, and enthusiastic. And so that was definitely appreciated by all of us as well. And the other big lesson learned was it takes a village to do all of this. From the top, you'll recognize Dr. Gregory there, the boss, and he was an incredibly supportive, enthusiastic adopter of new and innovative ways to teach. He said yes to all the crazy ideas and figured out ways to fund them. Dr. Smith and Dr. Ackerman were the professors involved in the course. We had an amazing gaggle of TAs and an amazing gaggle of volunteers. We had guest speakers. We had about 20 guest speakers from across various places, all previous students. And so they were really inspirational to the students. An incredibly supportive family who put up with sampling kits all over the house, especially when we were in lockdown, helping sort things out. People that helped pack the materials, the mailroom people who helped mail the kits. We delivered some of the kits by hand. The COESP provided some financial support. The Biodiversity Institute barcoded everything. And the library bookstore, or the university bookstore, helped us source some of the materials and sold the kits for us the second time around. So thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the January edition of the Spotlight series. Thank you so much for your time. And please go to the website and check out the other editions of the Spotlight series, as well as the ones coming next. You will see that in February, we're going to turn our attention to a very important topic: equity, diversity, and inclusion, and what is happening in CBS. I also want to encourage you to please get in touch if you or someone you know is doing something really cool in their courses. And please let me know if I can feature you or that person in an upcoming Spotlight. Thanks so much.